following show contains adult content. It's not our intent to offend anyone, but we want to inform you that if you are a child under the age of 18 or get offended easily, this next show may not be for you. The content, opinions, and subject matter of these shows are solely the choice of your show hosts and their guests, and not those of the Entertainment Network or any affiliated stations. Any comments or inquiries should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, and welcome to 50 Shades of Bullshit. I'm your host, Christine Lalonde, and this is the podcast where we uncover the truth about online dating. Now let's begin. Hey everyone, I'm Christine, and this is 50 Shades of Bullshit. I'm on my own today, but not completely, because today we have Michelle with us. I'll tell you about Michelle again in a second, but Jaida has some commitments that she's going to be doing for the next month with her business classes, and so she is not with us. So this week, I'm on my own. Here we go. Let's see how well this happens. Yeah, we'll see. So today we're talking about attachment styles again. We've talked about it before, but it's been so long that we thought we would retouch. So today we're talking about attached and unmatched. It's about diving into attachment styles, and we have Michelle O'Connell from Michelle. What's your company? Unstuck. There we go.
I was like, well, it's coming. It's coming.
Michelle's back with us again. Here she is here with us. Thank you so much for being back. Yeah. I'm so grateful to have you today, especially since I don't know if I could pull this shit off by myself completely.
Glad to be here.
I love it. So, we were talking the last time you were on the show about attachment styles very briefly, and then we were saying, "Hey, let's come back on and talk about them again." I don't think that we can talk enough about attachment styles because when we start to heal, I think if we know about our attachment styles, there's just another step in our healing on our journey, because if you don't know what you're doing, it's kind of hard to fix it, right?
Yeah, and I think you can feel a little, I don't like this word, but I think people resonate with it. Like you can feel a little crazy. Like, what is wrong with me? Why am I thinking about this person all the time? Or what is wrong with me? I really want love, but I push everyone away. It can just be confusing.
Completely confusing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you don't understand enough about attachment styles, what somebody else's behavior is can be super confusing and make you feel like you're going nuts, because you're like, what is going on? He's acting one way, he's saying another thing another way. So, or she, it can go both ways. And I think that if we don't understand what somebody else is doing, it can make it harder for us to understand what we're even doing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're missing that boat,
Really. And I think too, once you know how you show up in relationships in terms of attachment, you can work to change it. Like it's not a permanent thing. Like if you're like, oh, and I'll anxious attached, and I'll explain what that means. But if you're like, I'm an anxiously attached person, or that's my attachment style, it's not like, well, that's my life now. Like there's ways to work on it, and there's ways to heal your attachment to work towards more secure attachment style.
I love that. I think it really does help to know. I was, I'm not a dating coach. I'm just always speaking from my own personal experience or what I've learned along the way, and things like that. I think it's really good to educate yourself. It's the only way to understand any other type of dynamic. We can't be, what's the word I'm looking for? Empathetic towards others if we don't even know how to relate to them.
Yeah. Very much so. And that's something as a dating coach and personally, like I've had to figure out my own attachment style. But when I work with clients, one question that I always ask is, growing up, when you think about relationships, who is the healthiest relationship that you remember?
Mhm.
And often people are like, shit.
Well, healthy?
Yeah. Like what you think might be
About
healthy
that.
at the time, now, like, oh man, that person was a dick or like whatever. But anyways, it's just starting to think about what relationships were kind of modeled to you growing up.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what was your relationship like with, and I hate to say this, but like your parents, right? It all relates to our parents.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of I'm kind of generalizing here. Okay, because there's a massive people who are Gen X's.
Yeah.
And we grew up in the 70s and 80s, where I know people talk about this a lot, but it is my reality where they had to have a fucking commercial to ask the people where their children were. Do you know where your children are? And well, half the time they didn't know where we were. We were out running the streets, running around, doing the thing. And we were wild and feral. And I know I did not have a great relationship with my parents because I came from an abusive home. So my attachment style was whacked,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
And, so first off, sorry to hear that. That's hard.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah, it's all good.
yeah. And so something I explain to people when we think, sorry if you can hear my dog barking.
It's all
He's
good.
not even on this level, but he's so loud. Um, when babies are born, so this is a way I paint a picture to people. When babies are born, they're these neutral little things, right? It's like a blank canvas.
Right?
I'm going to use the term mom and dad. That's what I have, like mom and dad. So when they learn from being born, they learn that, hey, when mom goes to work, she comes back. That's pretty cool. Hey, when I'm hungry, I get fed. When my diaper's wet, it gets changed. And so even when babies are nonverbal and have little to no capabilities, they're learning how to attach and to trust people.
Right.
Right. They learn, hey, when dad gets mad, he calms down. That's pretty cool. Hey, when I'm upset, they help me. Right. And so if you
Mhm.
can imagine how like a little baby's attachment starts to form in terms of building trust, right?
Mhm.
And in terms of feeling worthy and lovable.
Mhm.
So this kid then goes to school, right? And, they're maybe good at sports or have, smart enough. And anyways, they develop all these beliefs about themselves. But the primary attachment beliefs usually happen within the first 3 years of your life. We kind of start
Interesting.
developing that attachment style.
Hmm.
It can shift throughout your life, right? Like things can happen, big things can happen that
Right.
shift attachment, but we really start learning to attach very young in our age.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we do.
we do. So are we gonna say something?
Nope. Thinking, I'm always thinking.
Yeah, so that attachment style as a kid, right? There's different names for attachment styles from kids to then when you are an adult. So we're gonna focus on the adult ones because
Mhm.
that's most relevant right now
Right.
for us. So, anyways, we develop these ways of attaching to people. And whenever you say attachment to people, they automatically think the word clingy. They're like, I'm not clingy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, that's not what attachment styles mean, right?
Exactly.
It's how you show up in intimate relationships and in what we are talking about today is dating, right?
Right.
Dating, those types of relationships. So, how you grew up matters and plays a role. In
Mhm.
adulthood, we have 4 different types of attachment styles. We have secure.
Mhm.
Secure attachment is when you feel trust, safety, and comfort in a relationship,
Mhm.
right?
Um, I also know that is to my keywords for secure is like communicates well and trusts their partner.
Yep, yep,
Mhm.
yep.
Mhm.
Someone who has secure attachment usually ends up with other people who have secure attachment, right?
Well,
Like
Because those people who have secure attachments really have like a comfortable relationship with being independent, and a healthy independency and intimacy, things like that.
Yeah, right. Like when they're dating someone and someone says, doesn't answer their text, they're just like, oh, they're probably busy.
Right. I
Right?
just assume they'll get back to me whenever they can. But
Yeah.
I've had girlfriends, like female friends, that are like freak out if they don't hear back from the person like immediately.
Yes. And so secure attachment is really the ideal. They're probably going to have healthier relationships, right? You said
Mhm.
communication. And that's kind of what we all want to strive for and work towards. It really
Mhm.
just makes relationships more functional. Then we have anxious, preoccupied. And so those are the folks that have really insecure attachment.
Yes.
And they have a
Oh.
strong desire for love and they want partnership
Mhm.
and a tremendous fear of abandonment.
Yes. They also seek like a lot of reassurances. And I know this was, I definitely had this and another one, which we'll get to.
Yeah,
But I used to have anxious attachment really bad, coupled with the other like fearful avoidant
yeah,
attachment, which we'll cover in a second when you get to it. But it is not it is not a fun place to be in. It is it feels like you're out of control, that you're spiraling, that any little thing can set you off. You're constantly afraid that your partner, or someone you're dating is going to cheat on you or hurt you or not be there for you because
yeah,
you've been abandoned.
yeah. Yep, and yep. It's kind of like, and there's obviously within all these attachments, there's like a spectrum, right? But it
Mhm.
is that person that is I think on dating apps, right? Like when you're chatting with someone, it's like constantly checking if they're writing you back. Like maybe
Mhm.
I know like I was more anxious and like I would sometimes bring my phone into a workout class, like just to see if they text me back. And I'm like, that's so
Oh,
crazy. Now
wow.
I look back, I'm like, you could have just waited an hour, sister. Like, um,
My problem is I'm waiting 3 and 4 days and I completely forget about it and I go, "Oh shit, I was talking to somebody," and then it would be like, "Oh, sorry, I'm barely on here. I
yeah,
I
yeah,
have a life."
yeah. But the anxious person is often ends up mm, people who have anxious attachment can end up kind of pushing people away. It
Mhm.
can be someone who is anxious can be kind of seen as, I don't love this saying, but as a little too much,
Mhm.
right?
That's what I don't like the saying either, but hi, my daughter just got home.
Oh, hey,
Um,
hey. Oh, she can't.
right? I have had that experience where I've been called, like in the past, too much because you're doing too much. You're trying too hard. You're putting a lot of effort in, and it's you're so anxious about when they get back to you, when they don't get back to you, what's happening, what's going on next. That it can be incredibly overwhelming, and you can be too much.
Yeah. And it almost feels like you need that person to validate you, or you need to be with that person to calm down.
Mhm.
I FaceTimed my
Yeah.
husband the other day from our bedroom, and he was in the
Mhm.
basement, and it was like we already said goodbye, like, I FaceTimed him, and he's like, "Oh my gosh," he's like, "Do you have anxious attachment?" Or no, what did he say to me? He said, "Do you have separation anxiety?" And I was like, "Sir, first off, you've known me for how long? Yes, I do." Like,
Yeah, of course.
how dare you call me out on that? He's like, "We already said goodbye." I was like, "I'm just seeing what you're doing." He's like, "Jeez."
I love it.
I'm like,
You're
so
like, "Good thing you're married to me."
yeah, like, yeah, and I mean, as someone who was anxiously attached in dating, like, I had to really check myself a lot, slow, and I'll go through them all, and then I'll talk about some tips on how
Yeah,
to kind of work on it.
great. I have some too. I think also with, this kind of God, I can't even say it. I said ancient. Anxious attachment. It's I remember feeling, "Oh, I don't think they understand that I'm just here with my whole heart and my love, and I'm so loyal, and I'm so outgoing and friendly, and I'm this and that," and I didn't understand that they didn't understand, and by being told I was too much, I'd get so upset, and I'd be all like, "What are they fucking talking about? I'm not too much. I'm just right." And then it's like, "Oh, wait a minute." I could start to see some of my girlfriends acting the same way. They would say, "Oh, I texted him or I called him and he's not getting back to me, and I've been waiting all this time and I'm freaking out." And I'm like, "Girl, chill. You're gonna push him away." And then I'm like,
Wait a
"I think
minute.
I think I know that."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it when you start to realize how you're attaching to, it's not just relationships that you are in romantically, it's also your relationships with your friends, your family, you know?
Yeah.
Who the hell keeps my phone is blowing up.
Oh, dang. You
So
should answer it on speakerphone on air, and we should all just observe this.
right? It's it's spam, it's constantly spam. What do you ugh, annoying. The
So so we have secure, anxious, and then the next one, dismissive, avoidant. We're just going to call it avoidant.
Mhm.
Right? So these are the folks that are more emotionally withdrawn.
Mhm.
They avoid intimacy and emotional closeness,
Mhm.
right? Um,
Right. I've known several of those.
yeah. Well, I was going to say a common phrase. I can swear, right, on here. Can I
Yeah,
swear?
oh, I
I
fucking
think
swear all the time.
I think I swore before. No, I heard you swear. Okay, but like the fuck boy, you think about, right? That's
Right.
someone who's not going to emotionally invest in you.
Mhm,
They'll have sex, or when you're there, it's fine. But then, like, they're distant. They're not texting you. The
mhm.
right. You think about those people who change in communication over the time and slowly start to withdraw. Um, right. It's those people who are non-committal.
I find that the insecure, anxious attachment and the, avoidant attachment tend
Mhm.
to find each other
Yeah,
a lot.
it's
A
the dance.
lot.
It's the anxious avoidant dance. Yep.
Mhm,
Underneath, I
mhm.
mean, underneath someone who is avoidant is someone who also fears abandonment, right? It just
Right.
looks,
Different. They're
yeah,
they're more, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Emotionally withdrawn, disconnected.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
They're convinced they're better off on their own.
yep. Like, I don't need anybody, or I'm waiting for, like, they are maybe always write people off, or too picky,
Mhm,
right?
mhm. Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
always someone better. They're like the chronic person who's like single, or the chronic person who is ending relationships to find the
Mm,
next.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Always something better there.
Yeah.
Someone had a question. How would you know that you are doing or experiencing this? Like,
Yeah. So
it I think I know what they're asking. Yeah, like, how do you know what your, um, attachments are by your behavior?
yeah.
So
Well, let me go over the next one, and then we'll kind of go through and kind of say, like, what does this look like?
mhm, mhm,
So the
mhm.
last one is a fearful avoidant, which I think you were describing, Christine, earlier.
Yeah.
So that person is going to be someone who's really inconsistent, hard to
Mhm,
predict the behavior. And so I have people who, like, for me, I was a little more anxious, but I was also a little avoidant, but I wouldn't still categorize that as fearful avoidant. Like, you
mm.
can have a little bit of a dance between anxious and avoidant. So, like, that
Yes.
you can have a little dance there, but you have to
Mhm,
think about, like, fearful avoidant as a kind of extreme.
mhm. I think so too. They're more along the lines of craving a connection, but they fear it tremendously at the same time.
Mhm. There, like, you think about that, there's a book, it's for describing borderline personality disorder, but the book is called
Mhm.
I Hate You, Don't Leave Me, or something like that. It's not
Right.
It's not a great book. It's really, it's written kind of textbooky, but it's a really
Mhm.
old school borderline personality book. But I think that title, I Hate You, Don't Leave Me, describes the fearful avoidant personality or attachment.
I had somebody that I met years ago, and after my last big relationship, like 10 years ago, I met someone about a year and a half later who I just adored. And for 8 years, we did this dance where he would suck me in, say how much he missed me. He was all in while he was there. He's loving and affectionate. And I'm like, and I'm not one to shy away from conversations. So I would say, hey, what's the deal? You were all the same way the last time, then you blew me off for 6 months. And now here you are back giving me the same song and dance, saying how much you miss me. He was that fearful, avoidant, attachment, and he did this with me forever, and I was so insecure that I would lap it up and then be heartbroken, and lap it up and then be heartbroken.
And that even describes someone who is just avoidant and someone who is just anxious. Like, I don't know this person, right? Like, so I don't know if
Right.
they're fearful avoidant. But even like,
Trust me, fearful avoidant.
so I was gonna say oftentimes, and I'm kind of generalizing, but people who have fearful avoidant often aren't even in relationships. They're a little chaotic.
Oh, yeah. They pretend they wanna be in one with you while they're with you, and then the minute they walk away, you're forgotten and they're thinking about the next thing. It goes back and forth. It's
Yeah.
I've got a lot of experience with those. I tend to be attracted to those kind of men in the past, before I healed, before
Yeah.
I learned mine. I tended to be attracted to those just because. I don't know why,
You
just I
kind of
did.
need the person who is anxious often attracts the person who's avoidant. Right?
Mm.
Because, well,
Mhm.
so let's just name, let's say someone you're anxious, so you text a lot or you need reassurance, right? And you're kind of perhaps overwhelming. Someone who's secure might be like, this doesn't feel right. I gotta go. Like you're like you got some stuff to work on, right? They're gonna
Mhm.
probably leave, right?
Mhm.
Um, but what happens is this like the anxious person, the avoidant person, they find each other because like the reality is I think they all people want love and they want partnership.
Right.
You want it and have really big challenges to get it. And that's how you,
Mhm.
right? So the intention is there. However, this anxious person becomes a lot. So the avoidant person's backs away, goes away, like this isn't working. Starts withdrawing, goes away, right? The anxious
Mhm.
person goes in more, the avoidant goes away more. So then the anxious person, like whatever, comes back, moves on. And the avoidant person's
Mhm.
like kind of liked some of that.
Mhm.
I do want love. Well, now this person's not here at all. So like, hi. So then they come back and it's the same dance over and over.
Ugh, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. And right. So someone who's dismissive or more avoidant, let's say I'm a healthy attachment and I'm, texting or reaching out to someone who's more avoidant, they might not return my call. They might not share a lot with it. They might show up and return my calls, but they might not share a whole lot.
Mhm.
Right? They might not wanna see me every day, right? Like once a week might be okay for that person, right? And
Right. It
someone
can
who
be
has a
overwhelming for them.
yes, someone who's secure and who has a secure attachment and someone doesn't like wants to see them once a week, like that's gonna be like, "No, that doesn't feel right, like I'm out." Right? That's why
Mhm.
the secure people kind of find the secure people often.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and so how you know you're doing these things or how you're experiencing this is noticing how you feel when you date,
Mhm.
right? Like, how
Yeah,
does it
what are
feel?
you doing? Like, when you get to that texting stage or that calling stage, are you obsessing about it? Are you, overdoing it? Are you sharing too much? Are your texts in his or one word? I get accused a lot now. I used to be big, long texts, like the whole story. Now I'm like, yep, uh-huh, sure, cool, yeah, let's do it. I'm 1, 2, 3 words at the most, and I've had many, many say, you're not much of a texter, are you? And I'm like, listen, fools, y'all bitched and complained when I had novels and it was too much. And y'all were one word clip. So I switch it around. Y'all are novels and I'm one word clip. And now I'm wrong again. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no.
Can't win. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like really noticing, like you said, how are you feeling? Right.
Mhm.
And when I meet with people as dating clients, I ask, like, tell me about your pattern with dating. What is it like for you? And I can usually tell pretty quick what someone's attachment style is, right?
Right.
If they're like, oh, I go on lots of dates. I can't seem to get a second or third date. Or, I've dated someone, but they always end up not wanting. All right. I hear this a lot. I date all these guys who end up not wanting to commit or not wanting. And I'm like, you're more
They're
anxious.
attracting the ancient.
Yeah.
They're attracting the avoidant or
Yeah.
the,
Yep. Or when I have people who will say, I'm too, like I said earlier, like I'm too picky. I've been single for a very, very long time. I want this, and this. I write people off quickly. I'm like, you're just avoidant.
Mhm. Mhm. Isn't that crazy that there's 4 different types of attachment styles and 3 are bad and 1 is good?
Yeah. Three. We'll say three make it harder to date. Right? And it's about finding the right person
Mhm.
who can heal your attachment styles in
Yes,
relationships, right?
you
Like
can.
you can.
Mhm.
I remember when I met my husband, I would text him and he texts me back right away. Like he'll deny this. He's just as anxious as me. And so it kind of works out. But now like it's changed quite a bit and we're both pretty secure.
I love that. A couple of questions here. We have, but different people have different styles, so you have to get to know a person to see what person works as you go. Yeah, you do have to get to know people. It's all about, figuring out how you're dating, what you're doing while you're dating. This is the thing though. My point from the very beginning has always been you heal yourself, you'll attract more healed people.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. That's how I
Yeah.
was getting all the avoidant, all the fearful, all the ancient, all the push me away because I was, anxious myself and
Yeah.
it didn't feel right to be with other anxious, too or any of the others. When I was starting to heal and I was starting to get to a place where I'm secure, a secure attachment, I find that I attract like people. And when I do attract different types, I see them very quickly.
Yeah.
That's the point, to
And,
see them very quickly.
and it's not bad, right? Like, I mean, like we all have different attachment styles. There's three
Mhm.
of them that are harder. But like if you
Mhm.
meet someone who's more anxious or more avoidant, it doesn't mean red flag run. Like that's not
Right.
what it means,
Right.
right? I would maybe if you see someone who's fearful or avoidant, they have a little more work to do. But I would
Mhm.
say like when you meet somebody who is a little more like my husband's also very avoidant. He does
Mm.
not like he literally tells me this. He'll be like, you know what I do? Just suppress it. I'm like,
Mhm.
what? I'm
I
like, "Man,
know a lot of men that suppress.
shove it
Yeah.
down. And I'm like, no, no. Um, but what happens is like when you get to know, because you don't know, some of this stuff shows up 6 months and you just don't know. Right?
6 months is the magic number, I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
I tell people to date people slow.
Mhm.
Date slow, especially if you're anxious, slow down. And if you're avoidant, speed up. So it's a
Mhm.
little, but also
Mhm.
you start to learn. And then if you learn that your partner's a little more anxious, you maybe provide a little more validation,
Yes.
right?
Well, it's the same thing as what's the other stuff? Not attachment styles, love languages. It's like learning what your person's love languages are and if you are capable of being to doing those love languages for them. What I mean by that is like if somebody love language is gifts, they love receiving those type of things, and you're not in a place to ever be that person, like you don't there are a lot of men that are very adamant about not being gift givers.
Yeah.
By the way, it's in many fucking ways, people. It's not a fucking pearl necklace, diamond ring. I kind of almost said, yeah, pearl necklaces too. Fuck that shit. But yeah, no, it's the same thing with love languages, though. If you are not capable within yourself of wanting to do that kind of thing, then they're not the right kind of person for you. If you're a giver and they are not capable of receiving, it's the same thing. It's just like you said, it may not be a red flag. It just may be they need a little bit more patience or you need to talk about it.
And when you exactly, because a lot of the times, like, people can be married for a very long time and have a little bit of different attachment styles, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Like, and it is what it is. But the idea is, like, you have to, one, work on your own,
mhm,
like, work
mhm.
on your own to be more secure, to build trust
Right,
with other people,
right.
to communicate. Who was I talking to the other day? It doesn't matter who I was talking to. I can't tell you. I'm
I was talking to somebody the other day and
a client the other day. She's been with a guy for 2 years, and she's like, he's probably more secure than she thinks. And
Mhm,
she's very anxious. She's anxious avoidant. Um,
mm,
it goes between the dance. Like, when it's too close, she'll pull out, like, the dance. But she was like, I think I expect him to, like, give me a hug when I walk in the door. And I need him to text me throughout the day. And I'm like, yeah, y'all have full-time jobs. Like,
mhm,
I don't think it should be a deal breaker that he's not texting you throughout the day, but maybe you could text him and just say, "Hey, I miss you."
mm,
Or maybe
mm,
you could just text him and say, "Hey, I need some attention right now."
mhm.
And, like,
Yeah, that communication is the
yeah,
most vital thing.
yeah.
We have a couple questions. Is it bad to know what you want, or do people even know what they want? I personally think you can't go into any kind of dating situation until you know what you want. If you're just out there floundering, how are you gonna find what you want if you don't even freaking, sit down and determine what it is you want and be realistic about it? We're not talking like, "Oh, he has to have dark hair, olive skin, be 6'2", and, have a six pack and a six-figure wallet and, a six-figure car."
Yeah.
Let's be realistic, but I do think it's very important to know what you want, especially when you're heading into dating. Don't flounder.
I think it's important to know what your top values are,
Mhm.
right? Because,
Yeah.
like, knowing what are some things that are deal breakers for you, right? And
Mhm.
like you said, it can't be a height. Like, that's silly.
Mhm.
Like, and it can't be, like, I mean, it can be, I suppose. Um,
Right.
but it's like, is this person going to be a good partner for me? Are they trust or it, family is important to me. And I think having some idea of
Mhm.
what you want is important. And you might not always know what you want,
Mhm.
being a
Mhm.
little
Right.
open minded.
I think, really thinking about those type of things though, maybe writing down, I think, I never was into writing things down. I just wasn't. And now I'm literally obsessed. I'm riddled with paper everywhere. Because I think it's really important that when you take the time to write out the things that are your core values, things that are deal breakers for you, or things that that like a deal breaker for me is somebody who has really strong religious value and religious, not values, but religious
Yeah,
aspects,
practices like who,
practices very strong religion, because to me, I don't believe the same things that somebody who has a strong religion has. Now, if they're just are religious and that's just that, then I'm cool with that. But if they're going to pressure it down my throat and judge me on it, then that's a whole different story. We have a whole bunch of questions. How do you determine what somebody is? Again, like we were saying, observe what they're doing, how they are they responding to your text quickly? Are they waiting 2 days to call you? Are they
yeah. And I think it too, like I, talk to someone and they were telling me about their second date and they knew all this information. I was like, why did they tell you all that? Like, that's a lot of information to share. They're like, well, they must trust me. I'm like, no, it's not healthy, actually. Like, they're oversharing. And that's not necessarily attachment style, right? That's like, oh,
Right.
that can be like just boundaries, lots of stuff. But I think, like,
Yeah.
you start to learn someone's attachment style kind of it can be very subtle, it can be very overt, it might be over time,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's by patterns that you see. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
whenever I say I love you, he kind of just shuts
Says,
down, right?
oh,
Or
thanks.
pats me on the back.
Yay. We've seen that. The thing is, though, a lot of people don't even know what their attachment style is. So if you're, trying to ask somebody, "Ooh, what's your attachment style?" They may not even know what you're talking about. They're going to
No.
look at you like, "What frou-frou bullshit are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Uh, it's so paying attention yourself will help that, I
Yeah.
think.
There's a really good book called Attached.
Mhm.
You can see this, Christine, but it's called
Oh,
Attached.
yeah.
It's the new science of adult attachment and how it can help you find and keep love.
Mhm.
It's by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller.
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
is this is a really good book to learn what your attachment style is and to learn also, like, so the first example that they use in here, like, your attachment style can be disrupted throughout your life. I have a client who had very secure attachment, and she dated this guy for 2 years that she found, like, was betraying her for one of those years the whole time, and
Mhm.
now she's scared to date, she's scared to trust, she doesn't know, and so her
Right.
attachment style, like, shook up a little bit, like, she has to
Mhm.
do some work to get back there.
Yeah. Um, Someone asked, "Is there a questionnaire that you can find out what your attachment style is?" Google's your best friend.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you have AI, it's your best friend. Pull it up, put in, what are attachment styles? You'll see the 4 of them. Look at them. Say, how can I determine what my attachment style is? Basically by reading it and what really rings true for you. I
Mhm.
mean, let's think about that. It's a one-liner. You're either texting calling too much, or you're avoiding by not texting calling back, or you push people away when they get close, or you grab on tight when they're pulling away and you're not letting go. It's pretty simple, I think, to figure
I
out.
I would say the ones that are more obviously to figure out are secure, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
anxious.
mhm.
Like, if you I mean, you a lot of people have pretty good insight into anxious attachment,
Right,
but a lot of people who are more avoidant don't always know it because they think they
right,
just haven't found their person, right? They just
right.
that, like, no, they don't need to open up to people. Like, kinda Christine, you were talking about, like, Gen X and, like, this idea you don't have to talk about your feelings. Shove
Well,
it
we
down.
weren't talking about them
Yeah.
then. We weren't. We never were, you
No.
know?
And so, like, there's also just
Yeah.
generational differences too in
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do have a list. I have 6 things. We're gonna run out of time soon. We got, like, less than 10-15 minutes, I think. But there I have a list of 6 things how to change your attachment style, and
Mhm.
then pop in and let me know what you think.
Yeah.
I'm just going to rattle them off real quick, and then we can engage on what they are.
Alright.
Self-awareness to identify your attachment style and how it affects your relationships. That's my first one. Then
Mm.
I have healing past wounds, which is my big thing, which is journaling, inner work, addressing your past trauma, therapy. Okay. I have practice secure behaviors, which is setting healthy boundaries, open communication, building self trust. Surround yourself with secure partners, engaging with those who actually have who are demonstrating secure attachments. Rewiring your thinking, which is challenge your negative relationship beliefs and replace them with positive affirmations. I cannot express that enough.
Mhm.
And seek professional help, which is a coach or a therapist. So those are my ones that I've focused on. Those are my 6 points that I look at, think about, and work with.
Yeah.
What do you have for suggestions for people on how to really, make those changes?
Yeah. Can I just say the same list you said? But I mean, like, for real,
Yeah.
self-awareness. And we talked about this the other week when I was on here, like self-awareness. Like a lot of people, they come to me, they don't know. They don't know what
Mhm.
I had to tell someone the other day, like, I was like, I hate to say this, but it sounds like you're pushing people away because you need to get validation. And they're like, shit.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Like, so, like you said, self-awareness, either taking an assessment online, reading a book,
Right.
healing past wounds, right?
That's a big
That's
one.
that's a lot,
Shadow work. Shadow
and I
work is very helpful.
and I really think, like, so I'm a mental health professional and I'm a dating coach, and I would say that with healing past wounds, you go to a mental health therapist.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I think dating coaching is a lot of solution focused. We talk about attachment, we talk about ways to do stuff, but really, I think healing those past wounds comes, and plus use your insurance, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Shadow work is really important, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, to learn that, like, hey, actually, like my mom, if your mom left, right? It's like my mom left because she didn't know how to be a mom. It's not because I'm unlovable, right? Or it's
Right.
not because
People think because them and they're unlovable and blah blah blah.
and so I just thought of like a sidebar too, but it is all related. Like oftentimes people who have attachment wounds from childhood
Mhm.
will I'm gonna try to say this simplified. Will try to find partners similar to that person who maybe abandoned them to try
It's
to
comfortable.
change that narrative to get them to stay or to show, but it don't work. It doesn't often work.
No.
So
No.
um
Well, Phil brought up a point that Phil is one of our listeners that comes quite often. We love Phil. He says, I have an anxious attachment style. There are a lot of people who crave other people who have anxious attachment style. I know that there are people out there who want that intense,
yeah.
attachment.
And the thing about it is like you can, and you didn't ask this, Phil. I'm just telling you. Um, uh, you can find partnership with that, and you have to also work on building autonomy, right?
Mhm,
The idea with people who have more anxious attachment is like, I cannot survive without this person,
mhm.
right? It's like, no, actually, I can. I actually can thrive with or without this person. They're just an added bonus.
Yeah. It's funny. We watch a lot of dating shows, because we talk about dating and we like to talk about them on the show. I'm watching Temptation Island, the newest one, and one of the girls, it was quite fascinating. I love seeing the evolution of their brains
Mhm.
change them. Like they only been there one day. So if anybody doesn't know what this show is, basically it is people who are in a committed relationship. One wants to be engaged and move forward, and the other one is dragging their feet. So they go on a show where they are tempted by singles, male and female singles, and women are with single men, and the relationship guys are with the single girls to see if they'll be tempted and if this is really something they want to be in or not. And it was the first day, and one of the girls was sitting at the pool and she was sad. The other one comes over and sits down with her and says, "You know what I realized?" She said, "I'm very anxious when he's not around." She's like, "I feel like I don't know who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing when he's not there, and I've never been that person, and I don't know if I like being that person." And I really enjoy watching people evolve and see and start to say, "Wait a minute, you know, I'm experiencing something I've never thought I was experiencing, but they're living it every day. They just are not aware of it."
Yeah.
Mhm. And that's an ancient, god damn it.
Yeah. You said it a
Anxious.
few times. We all know what you mean now.
Yeah. It's that attachment style that she is discovering that she's having with
Yeah.
this person, and she's like, I never realized that I didn't feel comfortable on my own." And she's like, I think I figure out who I am on my own because I realized I went from serious relationship to a serious relationship. So that's anxious attachment. If you're finding that you can't go without being in a serious relationship, then you're going one after another, and you can't find that peace quietly within yourself by yourself. That's anxious. I realized that, and I realized that I couldn't be alone, and now I love being alone. Well, not 100%, but you know what I mean.
Opposite, right? Someone who has the more avoidant has kind of the fear of engulfment, right? That this other person is just going to absorb them fully. And so that person is then working on, how can I let go of some of the autonomy, right? And let this person in a little bit, but keep my autonomy. But like, how can I go the other way a little bit?
We have one more question that I want to answer before we finish. They say, how do you know if something is a deal breaker if you have not ever experienced it? I find that a very fascinating question because I'm curious how old the person is and how many relationships they've been in. Have they been in only one for a very long time? Have they not been in very many relationships? Because how do you know if something's a deal breaker? I cannot talk today. It's how is it making you feel? Does it make you feel like you are on a right path, or anxious, or
Well,
worried?
Christine,
Yes.
that came in. Let me see how I can put this, how to explain this. If when you set these values and you're just saying, I want this, and this. Well, and then they ask, how do you know if something's a deal breaker? You've set these, this is what you want, but how do you know it's a deal breaker if you haven't experienced it?
Yeah. So something I would say too is that like deal breakers to me, writers, you want kids, you don't want, the other person doesn't want kids. That's a real clear cut deal breaker.
Yep. One's
right?
super religious, one is not, and that can be a deal breaker.
Can be, right? Can be. It depends, like, because I mean, I dated a guy who went to church every Sunday. I didn't care. He didn't care. I didn't go. He loved God. I don't. But I mean, like extreme religious, sure.
Yeah. I think it also can be extremely hard if, say, like someone is Jewish and they expect you to convert and you can't, or same thing with Mormonism. It's when you also are going to marry somebody that's extreme difference in religion or politics, that becomes a really tricky thing because you're raising children together, possibly.
Totally. And I was gonna say, like, it's hard because, like, if you're someone who is more anxious or avoidant, like, you can't always trust your gut. And that's tough when your nervous system has been playing tricks on you. And so to know if something is a deal breaker for you, that comes with experience. Like you had said, Christine, like questioning, like, I wonder, like, but it comes with the experience. It comes from talking to healthy people. Because sometimes you talk out loud and they're like, that's not normal. You're like, what?
I didn't know that wasn't normal.
And I would say, like, you got to figure out your own values, and values are hard to figure out. There's tests and quizzes you can take on that too. But the big thing is, do you get along? Are you healthy? Do you treat each other well? Right? Do you have similar goals?
Yeah, I think that's important. If you're constantly struggling to just get that basic connection or getting a relationship off the ground, that's a problem. You really should take time to figure out what's going on here, and here.
Yeah.
What's happening here, before we go out there to try to figure out what's happening with other people.
For that person, there's a book that I have. I'm going to move my computer. You're going to see a little tour quick. There's a book in the bed. It's called Marry Him: The Case for Settling for Mr. Good Enough.
Okay.
And that's just a really good book about kind of letting, like you said, what value. Like, it's just a good book about how, I don't know. I really like it.
My favorite one is Why Men Love Bitches.
Oh, I love that.
It's an incredible book. It's not being a bitch. It's about being secure and
Yeah, I love that.
Well, time flies really fucking fast around here, and I can't be more grateful to you for being here today. I did not know how I was going to do a show by myself. Nobody wanted that.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so thrilled, and we're going to have you back again in May. Is that right?
Yep, that's true.
Okay, awesome. So thank you, Michelle, for coming today. I truly appreciate you. You're awesome. And to all those who come to ask all these amazing questions, thank you so much. And thank you for coming and listening and being with us every week. And same time, same place next week. And until then, let's just keep this shit real. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, like and follow us on Instagram at 50 Shades of _bullshit and Facebook at 50 Shades of Bullshit. Thanks so much for listening, and we really hope to see you again next week.